you and me in the gatepost, I don't think he gets any sleep at all. He's always the last to blow the candle out at night, and the first one to light it in the morning. What does he do that he needs so much time? He writes. He'll scratch something down in one of those penny exercise books, then get up real quiet and walk around a bit. You can see his lips move all without a sound. And then, a little bit later on, he'll sit down again. Next, he'll either scribble a few more lines or more likely cross the whole lot out with a big sweep of the ink. To tell you the truth, I can't see much difference in what he says is good and what he says is poor. But it all seems to worry him quite a bit though, so there you are. I'm not even sure I know why he does it. Today he was up before anyone else, off to see to the milking. That shouldn't take too long. We've only got 6 cows and they're not giving too much lately. No feed. It's been a terrible dry summer. Later I'll go again, out to where the clearings of ghost comes, out past the flat. Do you know those? Big old trees, so thick in the trunk you can ride a horse around. We cut a few of them down yesterday and now we'll pile them into rows ready for burning. These trees are hard to climb because the branches start far up, but then they reach high into the sky like arms. Even in the dark you can see them. They haven't got too many leaves either. All the sap and green ran out long ago. If you want to plant a crop, they're a great nuisance. And you have to get rid of them, but that's easier said than done. The roots go a long way underground, and it's plain the trees have been there for years. They don't lose their grip at all. You can't pull them out. So what we do is cut them down. When he's in the bush, Jock seems to change. When the men knock off for dinner, he often walks away from them and goes a bit further into the trees. He looks out for a little path. One that winds around a bit and takes him out of sight of other people. Nothing pleases him more than to find it grow smaller. More and more faint, and then peter out. There he can wander by himself, where there's no tracks to tell you where you are or whose land you're on. Your own footsteps make a new path that someone might follow the next day, or else it may never be trodden again. It's free. Yesterday I saw it go off on his own. Only this time I thought I'd follow. The track went into a little gully, a creek bed that had no water. There he stopped. For a long moment he stands without moving, and the wind blows on his hair and the cloth of his shirt. He looks ready to go on, or perhaps he's looking around for a stick to draw in the dust. Sometimes Jock finds shells there, left by the people before us. But it's not that. Instead he starts to bend slowly and lies on the ground. He's having a rest. No. He stretches out and lays his ear against the earth. He's trying to hear something. I go a little nearer, but quietly, so he won't be put off. A faint far-off sound was coming up from below through the cracks in the dry creek bed. No birds are singing, but they sit on some of the low trees, watching, silently waiting. On the horizon is the kind of shaking as a mirage. The slight sound of the hazy light is shaking and Jock is listening. It's the voice of the shadows. Then he starts to speak very softly into the ground itself. His lips almost touch the stones and the dust. The little lizards look scared of him, and his low words join with the sound around him. I can't make out what he's saying, but I dare move the muscle. In a little while he's finished, and he stands straight up. He turns and beckons to me. He knew I was there the whole time. Far off in the distance now comes the noise of the men about to start the afternoon's work. So we turned and walked together along the track, out of the trees, back to where the big old trees were formed, the crops of the Sunday grow.
In
split some more logs to keep the fire going tonight. He does the logs and I do the kindling. Mother's inside just now. My sisters are helping her make things ready for tea tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. Dad and Jock killed a sheep today, so it's mutton again, at last. Mother's been boiling it for a few hours. It's too old for a really good roast. It's not a two-tooth. It's about 10 tooth. It'll certainly make a change from those blessed rabbits. We've had them so often I don't think they have a taste anymore. There's rabbits by the 100,000 round here. Dad's sharpening his knife in readiness, and I bet he'll say what he always does when the meat's put on the table. He looks around at all of us, as pleased as Punch, and says, "Well, Margaret, right now I wouldn't call the king me up. Lord of love, look from above upon this leg of mutton. Once 'twas sweet and fit to eat, but now, by God, it's wrong." I like Dad a lot. He doesn't get into bad moods too often, only when he's worried about money. He came out to this country when he was only 9, you know. They came for the gold. The ship took 6 months. My grandmother was ill for most of that time. There was hardly any milk or good food, and the little ones just couldn't stand up to it. 7 days out from Portland, the sailors buried him at sea. Dad writes verse, you know. He says he does it to take his mind off things. It's where Jock gets it from, most likely. They've had some of their pieces printed in the paper at Mill, and one year they shared a prize together. Dad would like to have a book of his properly printed one day. That'd be good to see. Our farm isn't doing too well. Of course, we haven't been here very long. It's early days yet. I think we'll make a go of it. But you need to clear the land before you can sow anything. That takes years. Meanwhile, we have to eat. Sometimes Dad and Jock go out to work for other people to earn money for the rest of us. They go out fencing, shearing, working on the roads for the council, anything that'll fetch some money or credit. But the more they stay away, the worse things are for our farm. Sometimes you'll even wonder if you'll see them again. Last week they were out doing some fencing over near the border when their food and water began to run out. In the end, they had to leave nearly all their equipment behind to make a dash for home. They travelled for 2 days with their horses and a cart. We were on the veranda in the moonlight where Jim started to bark, so we knew someone was coming. Mother sprang up before anyone, swinging the lamp in front of her, lit up the faces of Dad and Jock. They headed straight for the pump, grabbed an old saucepan and began to scoop up the water. They drank 14 lots before they even stopped for breath. Poor old horses just licked the dishes out like dogs, panting, spluttering. Of course, because they left the job, they didn't get any pay for it, even though they'd nearly finished, and they'd almost died. The other day, when I was about to do some adding up, I came across this rhyme of Jock's in the accounts book. It was just below the blacksmith's building. He called it the old man's worry. The morning star is hardly up, the clock strikes 4. The frosty air is peeping through the keyhole in the door. The neighbouring cocks are round about it, crowing lazily. The old man's hair is snowy white, but up jumps he. The old man's worrying and hurrying. The old man's worrying before the break of day. The old man's worrying, the crop is all in ear. The hot winds play the mischief just about this time of year. The cock spurs on the fallow, the stick works on the plain. There's a sudden rise in corn sacks and a sudden fall in grain. The crops are very backward and the rains are very late. The hens are in the garden and the bull has smashed the gate. The harrow bar is broken and the buggy mare is lame. The old man's worrying and wondering who to blame. The weather's hot and humid and the old man's got the blight. The grain is small and shrivelled and the bags are very light. The rains may come tomorrow and knock the whole lot down. And last night came a letter from the mortgagees in town. He wrote and told the mortgagees he really couldn't pay. The mortgagees wrote back and said they'd foreclose straight away. His other creditors, they came and tried to make a row. The old man said he didn't care how anything went now. The drought is at its very worst. The furious hot winds blow and wither every little blade that striveth still to grow. The old man's carting water some 20 miles or more, and now the sweat and sand have made the horse's shoulders sore. So the old man writes the government and tells them he's dead beat and asks them for to help him in a matter of seed wheat. His friends, they try to tell him that it's not a bit of use to try. Parliament's not due to meet till sometime in July. The old man died quite suddenly, in arrears of rent and rates, and met St. Peter with the keys beside the pearly gates. Whence cometh thou, the saint inquired, referring to his book. Good Saint Itilda Mallyblock, way out in Carcarook. Pass in, poor soul, the saint replied. No man of mortal birth is turned away who had like thee his share of hell on earth. People call him from time to time. Otherwise we'd never know what's going on in the world. A man came by yesterday, he said he was from the new school. He wanted to know if my sister would be going there. I don't think there's much chance of that. Jock went there for a couple of years, but it's a long way, about 4 miles. And in the end, he had to stop going because he was needed too much at home. He's smart though. Dad says Jock learned more in 2 years than he did in 10. Other times, one of our neighbours might call by. There's one man by the name of Mr. McRae from up the road who comes to lend Dad his tools or stops to give him advice. When he talks with Dad, Mr. McRae has a smile that goes kind of sideways on his face. You can't work some people out, can you? When we came over from Penola 2 months ago, we stopped at this new town that's going up called Edenhope. We had quite a load with us, 6 of us on 2 drays, 3 horses and a cow. So we thought we'd take a bit of a breather. This particular day, there's people running around, putting up flags and banners. There's a little band scratching away and all the rest of it. Busy as laying hens they were. All in aid of the Governor of Victoria, Lord Hopetown, who's paying a visit. This man was very highly thought of, because during the bank bust a few years back, many people were thrown out of work, and he sent them crates of champagne to tide them over. I'm not sure if it did. Anyway, there's a big party with him, all in very flash clothes, plumes and parasols, little doodads on the shoulders, high-stepping boots to lot. Pretty fancy, but they looked a bit odd too. By this time, the band was playing Ta-Ra-Ra Boom Dia, 19 to the dozen. Their speeches by the score, oh, it was a great carry-on. As we're driving out of town, I noticed this horse grazing by the side of the road. It's no farm horse, that's plain. The saddles are really fine leather, beautiful stirrups. They couldn't see this animal pulling a plough. It belongs to the Lord and it's wandered away. Dad says we better take it in, so hitch it on the back and drive back in. Things are just as we left them. No one's even noticed this beautiful horse has just gone missing. Dad finally fights his way up to one of these aide-de-camps they have. This code doesn't so much as look at him or give him a reply. He just comes straight over, takes the horse from the back of the dray and marches away. No reply, no thanks. That whole day's shift took much longer than it should. We got here about an hour after dark, what with all this business. All the swamp noises were going, it was pretty cold too. You could hear the ducks making funny croaks, and every so often was some sound Dad said was a buzzing. On the way over, Jock said, turn around and have a look, and I did. There was the countryside dropping away into the dark. The big trees making their dim arches above us, and Jock pointed out in the black the lights of the Southern Cross. Mother doesn't like it here very much. She said we had 30 shillings and a cow when we first came. Now we only have the cow. When my sisters and I were younger, there were 3 of us under 4 years of age. So she had her hands full pretty nearly all the time. Dad was often away too, so she was lonely and afraid. There was only Doc to be the man of the house. Today I came in at dinner time, and I noticed her staring out the window at something off in the distance. It's been a pretty hot day here, and a poor old sheep, tired and scrawny, was trying to find some shade. All the rest of the flock had found somewhere to shelter, but this one was left behind. A big, strong-looking hawk was flying at it, straight down from the sky. Over and over again the bird would swoop. It'd circle a bit, then turn and come at the sheep with its sharp beak stretched out in front. It wanted to peck out its eyes and blind it. The sheep couldn't get out of the way. The hawk kept flying slowly up, then quickly down. It knew what it was doing. In the end, the sheep just seemed to lose heart. And it stood there waiting for the hawk to come down once more. I looked at Mother. She never took her eyes off it, not even when I spoke to her. Mother can be hard sometimes. She's often on her own out here. Once I heard her telling Jock that he should never think bad thoughts, because God is always watching. Jock's the one she talks deeply to, more than Dad in a way. You see, Jock had taken some honey from a tree out in the bush for us to eat, but Mother said it was stolen and wrong for us to have any of it. God has made laws for human beings, she said, which we must obey. Even when you are far out in the bush and you think you are free to do what you wish, He will look down and judge everything He sees.
In the far days, when every day was long, fear was upon me, and the fear was strong, ere I had learned the recompense of song. In the dim days I trembled, for I knew God was above me, always frowning through, and God was terrible and thunder blew. Discovered creeds awed my opening mind, perils, perplexities, what could I find? All the old terrors waiting on mankind. Even the gentle flowers of white and green, the rainbow with its treasury of dream, trembled because of God's ungracious scheme. And in the night, the many stars would say dark things unaltered in the light of day. Fear was upon me even in my play. There was a lake I loved in gentle rain. One day there fell a bird, a courtly crane. Wisely he walked as one who knows of pain. Gracious he was, and lofty as a king. Silent he was, and yet he seemed to sing always of children and the spring. God, did he know him? It was far he flew. God was not terrible and thunder blew. It was a gentle water bird I knew. Pity was in him for the weak and strong, all who have suffered when the days are long, and he was deep and gentle as a song. As a calm soldier in a cloak of grey. He did commune with me for many a day, till the dark fear was lifted far away. Long have I learned that all his speech was true. I cannot reason it how far he flew. God was not terrible and thunder blew. Sometimes, when watching in a white sunshine, someone approaches, I can half decline all the calm beauty of that friend of mine. Nothing of hatred will about him fling. Silent, how silent. But his heart will sing always of children and the spring.
Speak not of death, it is a merry morn. A glittering bird has danced into a tree. From his abundant heart, bravely are born the loves of leafy choristers to me. Music is of the sunlight, strong and free. The sun is up and death is far away. The first hour is the sweetest of the day. Lively the bush boy wanders on a walk, shaking with joy, joyous in heart and limb. For his delight, the trees have learned to talk, and all the flowers have little laughs with him. Watching the far sky, wonderful and dim. The sun is up and death is far away. The first hour is the sweetest of the day. Of the day. Of the day. Of the day.
Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning earlier than I want to. When the light is still dim and no one is up, except the jock scratching away with his nib. I look at my brother hard at work, and I hear my parents and sisters still calmly sleeping, and I think of our little family in this house way up in the bush. Dad built it in a hurry, you know, so we'd had somewhere to move into. He hasn't had much time since to finish it off properly. The walls aren't too thick really, and there's gaps in the boards. You can hear the whispers coming through the cracks. The stirring of the dogs once in a while, and the kind of crackle in the air like the dark was alive. It'd be easy if something happened, for us all to be parted, some by death and maybe others by distance, all swept away. What'd be left of the Nielsen's then? There'd be nothing to show we ever lived on this earth. So we cling to one another the more and work still harder to pay something off the storekeeper's bill. It's due at the end of the month, you know. Last Monday turned out the way I didn't expect. Wasn't too hot to begin with, but by midday there was a still scorching sky and the sweat made your shirt stick to your back. My sister Maggie had only recently come home from Swan Hill, She was in a bad way. She'd got much thinner. The weight was just falling off her. I couldn't get over the change in her. She had large red sores on her back, which we tried to get rid of by using liniment, but it didn't do any good. But we're all glad to see her again and be together. She was a cheerful girl with a joke on her lips as often as not. She'd been working at a hotel on the river, and the people there were very good to her. But one day they noticed she had a troublesome cough that wouldn't go away. She seemed to need rest more and more often. So they sent word to Dad that he'd best come over and see how she was getting along. Dad left the shearing job he was doing up at Sea Lake and went over. He spoke to a doctor that said if she lived to be 40, she might recover. But we didn't have enough money for Maggie to go to a sanatorium. Maggie has a little hut near the house, and a bell she can ring at night when she needs us. Often at midnight she rings the little bell for Jock to come to speak to her. Her breathing had got so bad that she has trouble getting to sleep. That morning she rang in the early hours. She hadn't been so bright in a long while, and she started to tell jokes and comical stories about the people she'd worked for over the years. And then all at once she went very tired and she said, "What's wrong with the light? It's going dim, all the air is dark." Then her head sank back a little and she said, I think, very softly. By now, Jock had rushed out and called to us. When we got there, Dad was holding her hand while she murmured something we couldn't understand. I think we all lived years in that moment. But you know the strangest thing, though? I don't know how many times I visited Maggie in that little hut, and I thought I knew every corner. On that Monday, I saw something I'd never seen before. There was a dark stain on the wall by the side of the bed. I never noticed it till then. And then I saw Jock walk out to the yard and just stand there for a while. A few hours later, I heard a sharp ringing sound. It was a spade striking against the dry earth. I went to help, but Jock said not a word. There was a moment there when I felt like crying out, putting my hand on Jock's shoulders or making some noise to myself. He looked right through me.
Shall we assault the plain? It is the time to part. Let us of love again eat the impatient heart. There is a gulf behind, dull voice and fallen lip, a blue smoke of the mind, the grey light on the ship. Parting is of the cold that stills the loving breath. Dimly we face the old, the pitiless meal of death.
Round about this time, I began to wonder if my brother, who'd always been a pretty strong sort of fellow, wasn't going through a bad spot in some way. One evening, Dad was sitting reading the old bulletin, and it seems to be something he doesn't like very much, because he keeps taking short little breaths and making clicking sounds with his tongue. Then he stops altogether and stares into space. "Jock," he says, "did you write this piece here? Marion's child?" And before anyone else can say anything else, Jock begins.
First we thought of the river, but the body might be found, and it did not seem so cruel to bury it in the ground. So small it seemed, so helpless. I hardened my heart like a stone. She kissed it over and over, then I heard her groan. I took it out of her bosom. It cried and cried and cried. I carried it down the garden. The moon was bright outside. I dug a hole with a shovel and laid the baby down. I shoveled the sand upon it. The sand was soft and brown. Down at the foot of the garden, where the weeds grow rank and wild, under the shivering willows I murdered Marion's child. Neither was yet a woman. I was the younger one, and we strove to tell each other what a wise thing we had done. Why should it live to plague us? Why should it ever begin travelling roads of trouble, soiling its soul with sin? No, I never will marry. God, I'd rather die. If ever I had a baby, 'twould curse me with its cry. For down at the foot of the garden, where the moon-made shadows fell, I sold my soul to the devil and brought her home in hell.
When he finished, he just sat there. Mother was shocked and didn't speak for quite a while. Dad waited, and when John left the room, he followed. I heard them talking outside. Do you know what I think happened? There was a young lass by the name of Catherine McPhee who'd gone to Melbourne to seek work as a servant. Somehow or other she got mixed up with a young fella. The sort who just clears out when there's a baby coming, because that's what he did. Catherine's cousin, a spinster lady a few years older, went to see her and learnt the whole story. But it was too late. When the child was born, their money had run out. They were too ashamed to come back here, and they couldn't bring it up themselves. So it was killed in cold blood. The whole story came out when the two women left the place they'd been staying, and the body was dug up a few weeks later. But why did Jock take all this in? He spoke like a woman himself. These pieces of his, generally he shows them to us so no one else ever gets to see them. So it was a shock to see this story changed around like this, in the cold black and white, in this paper that goes all around the country. I think he's going away from us.
Quietly, as rosebuds talk to the thin air, love came so lightly, I knew not he was there. Quietly, as lovers creep at the little moon, softly as players tremble in the tears of a June. Quietly as lilies their faint vows declare, came the shy pilgrim, I knew not he was there. Quietly as tears fall on the wild sin, softly as griefs fall in a violin.
up to Sea Lake when that district was opened up. We had a new farm. Not that it went any better than the old one. More and more Jock had to stay away to earn money for the rest of us. We often didn't see him for weeks at a time. And when he did come home, he was very quiet. At night, you'd hear him sing out all of a sudden. Later, he might get up, walk away from the house. He could only sleep an hour or so at night. We thought he might lose his reason altogether. He couldn't seem to keep still. Anyone with heart but I could see something was wrong, but still Jock wouldn't say.
When thou art gone but a little way, I am in a cold fear. The day, like a long sickness, is, and I count the moon a year. When thou art gone but a little way, I am in a deep alarm. I cry, oh God, her dear body, if it should come to harm. When thou art gone and light is gone, I fiercely wish thee near. The day, like a long sickness, is, and I count the moon a year. The moments are as old men who stoop and stay too long. I see no grace in God. I hear no softening in a song. When thou art gone but a little way, I am in a cold fear. The day, like a long sickness, is, and I count the moon a year. Is it you, Sadie?
She is not here. It is her shadow there, muffled with many prayers and insipid sorrow. She is not here. She would keep to the sunlight or leafy places, the cool islands. I cannot wait. The long night is coming. In the green it is dark. All the green day I suffer. All the cries I have cried are unheard. She is not there. Her eyes were wide as pansies, mournful and telling of love, love and his shadow. I was with love. Love and his violins prayed in the dark to me, mounted the sunlight, put upon me the love of all fragile things. My heart was faint with the slow kisses of a child. So died my Sadie. And love and his violins assail me. She is not here. She will never come. Why will the bluebird say to his love, I am your lover, all your body is mine, your voice cooling, crying, I am athirst with love in a white anger. She is not here. Her eyes were jewels, telling all the kindness that falls and dances about us in black cities and green valleys.
Her lips were as red as the lips of my Sadie. Tear my heart out, O God. Hear me. I struggle.
Jock used to head for the Salt Lakes early in the morning. You know those Salt Lakes? Some farmers try to make some money by scraping off the loose salt gravel. Poor bastards. There's heaps of this stuff around the edges of the lake. Well, that's where Jock used to go. There's hardly any plants, of course. Just these piles of white stone, hard and sharp to the touch. If you put some to your mouth, it's bitter with a trace of dirt. These lakes have hardly any water. The top is a kind of white salty crust, a few inches thick that'll stretch for miles. Well, here's Jock one day, carefully making his way across when his boot slips a bit. Brown, slushy mud comes up through the hard white. But instead of scraping it off his boot, he reaches down and starts to gather it up into his hands. And then he starts to wipe it on his face. Dirt, oozy, smelly stuff that's been under this kind of metal for months. It's like quicksand. Jock didn't breathe a word of this to anyone. He kept away from us a good deal. It was a long while before he became his old self again.
The hour is lost. Was ever hour so sweet, fruitful of blessings, friends, and honeyed words? The sunlight in our faces, at our feet, our hearts burn hot within us ere we knew. Then suddenly we said, can it be true? This golden time was ours, and now we stand downcast. We should have leapt for love. Alas, the hour is past. The hour is lost. Scarce had we time to mark the glory of the green, the sky's soft blue. It came as silently as comes the dark. Our hearts burned hot within us ere we knew. Then suddenly we said, can it be true? This golden time was ours. And now we stand downcast. We stand dumb and amazed. Alas, the hour is past.
The last someone told us Jock was keen on the girl in Sea Lake. That's what all the fuss was about. She was decent enough. Postman's daughter. No, I don't know what happened. Dad just says Jock knows she's her own colour and that's that. She was Catholic. Perhaps it was the way Jock came across to her. He never took the trouble to dress very well, and he certainly didn't have much of a way with words. But I think it's all a bit simpler than that. By now, Dad was pushing 60, and getting on with it to be doing the hard work. We were all needed, either at home or to send money back. If Jock up and married, he'd most likely move away, and of course he'd have his own family to look after. How could our farm keep going? The other thing was, in those days, if a man couldn't keep a wife, he didn't take one, and that was that. No, Jock couldn't start a new life, and he couldn't leave his old one, so it wasn't to be.
Weary is he, and sick of the sorrows of war, hating the shriek of loud music, the beat of the drum. Is this the shadow called glory men sell themselves for? The pangs in his heart, they have paled him and stricken him down. Oh yes, the soldier is home. Still does he think of one morning, a march in the sun, smoke and a scream in the dark, and next to his mind comes the time of his torment, when all the red fighting was done, and he diplomats delicate lying, the cheers of a crowd. And now does he hate the dull tempest, the shrill vaporings? He who is proud and no beggar now waits for his shroud. Oh yes, the soldier is home. And now does he sit in the dark? His world shall be fearfully small. He shall sit with old people and praise God for fine weather. Only at times shall he move, or a glimpse away over the wall, where the men and the women who make up the world strive together. Oh yes, the soldier is home. Oh yes, the soldier is home.
Doc and I are in Sea Lake. Pick up the mail, have a yarn to a few people and get some tea, sugar and flour, making sure we dodge the storekeeper. There's a question of credit, Mr. Nelson. There is too. The first thing we notice are a whole lot of flags and banners and such like stuck up on walls and hanging from the hotel veranda. Someone straight the Union Jack from the church window. There's a few codgers handing out sheets of paper to anyone foolish enough not to look away at time. I'm not about to do that anyway. That place hasn't been so lively in years. The first bit of paper is a speech from Mr. Deacon saying we have to keep Australia white and free. God alone, he says, knows how I hope to help you say that magic word. Let our voices thunder, yes, and future generations shall arise and call us blessed. I'm just getting over that one when another bloke rushes up. What's going on, he says. Don't you know, I asked. Billy Hughes has just come back from hobnobbing from the old earls and lords and such in London. There's a battle royal going on over there and he tells us they need more men. They're holding the conscription referendum in a few weeks. And then he kind of pushes his ballot into my hand and rushes off. Make up your mind, he says. Why is your face so white, Mum? Why do you choke for breath? Oh, I have dreamt in the night, my son, that are doomed a man to death. Why do you hide your hand, Mother, and crouch above it in dread? It beareth a dreadful brand, my son, with the dead man's blood 'tis red. And there's a lot more. On one side of the street they're putting up the slogan, a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. On the other, it's a picture of a king and Billy shaking hands. To tell you the truth, I've got half a mind to go. They're paid a shilling a day over there. That's about twice what we're getting a week at the moment. Sure, we're working hard. Scratching up the dust just trying to make something grow, but not doing too well when you add it all up. Besides, this soldier business is the only chance I'll get at setting eyes on Paris, I reckon. To top it all, this very spick and span character now marches out of the hotel. Gets up on his hind legs and mounts a little wooden box which has magically appeared. Suddenly he's the tallest man in the valley and he's got a voice to match. Words pour out of him, jawbreakers I never heard before. Imperial solidarity, loyalty to the throne and a lot of stuff which was pretty much lost on me. But it's all got a pretty good ring to it. Soon a little crowd begins to gather round. People are calling out hurrah and so on. But they're not all on his side. Others are just waiting to butt in and knock this little cove off his box. This fighting business seems to stir things up all right. I can't speak for Europe, but Sea Lake is wide awake. Then the real business starts. And the soapbox who tells us his name is Colonel Donald Armstrong gets onto the Huns. Our young country must come to the aid of its illustrious mother, he reckons. Otherwise the Huns will ride roughshod over gallant little Belgium and into France and storm the very gates of London. These Huns are wreaking so much havoc over there, killing and burning, that I really begin to wonder if it's such a good idea to meet up with that lot. But I never heard of them before, so at last I asked, where do the Huns come from anyway? What are they doing in France? This cove turns on me with a kind of pitying smile and says, young man, the Huns are the Germans who under the infamous Kaiser Wilhelm wished to cripple Europe. The name is a byword for evil. What's that got to do with us, I'm about to ask, when there's another voice?
Do you mean we should have nothing to do with them but to kill them?
That's right, says the Colonel, and whips back into his talk.
But we have Germans next door trying to make a living just like we are.
I noticed that Mr. Kruger from up the road is getting dark looks from a few people. So he gets on his horse and rides away. So the Colonel, who sees which way the wind is blowing, decides to cut all this short. Young man, it is clear you see no need to defend our young country or the Empire, and so enable it to continue as the greatest political confederation in the history of the world. This is a holy war, and it requires the sacrifice and heroism of every capable male for the greater glory. What is your age? Do you wish to shirk your part of the national burden?
I'm doing my part every day on that farm.
He starts to talk almost as much as the recruiting man, and in public. This is unlike him. He usually saves his best talking for under his breath.
It's wrong to make me look meanly at my neighbour. We should not leave our own country to kill other people in theirs. We may go to start a new life, as my parents and everyone here has done, but no more than that. You say this call-up is our duty, but every man has the right to his own body. I cannot live or die in another country. This is our home. This is where we belong. We should live and work here. Australia is special, precious, a new spirit. Let's not spoil it. Don't we have enough to do here to make it prosperous for all? We have our own battles here.
I can see he's stumbling a bit. And of course the Colonel is angry if this comes right over the top and starts on about the referendum in 3 weeks. He's a bit of a standover merchant, this chap, and I don't like to look at his eye. So I go and get the horses in the stores and we head for home. On the way we're passing the farms, the shabby little houses, the dams with no water, the uprooted trees, the stunted crops that won't grow, and I think to myself, yes, there is a lot to be done. But by God, it would be good just to catch sight of some other country. Of course, Jock is right. We have to stay and work the farm. But it'd be a rare old treat to see what's on the other side. Just at that moment, as if looking into my mind, Jock leans over and opens his mouth to say something, but I cut him off. Yes, I know. We can't leave the farm. We're needed here. So I know I'll never sail away to live, to die, just to look, but to stay here all my life, in this country. I'll have plenty of time to think about the words they spouted that day. The words that spouted for Jock and the Colonel.
Men openly call you the enemy, call you the swine, but all that they say to me never can make you a foeman of mine. The rain has come over the mountains, the gullies have faded away,
couldn't make it gold. Whatever we did, the land couldn't keep us, and we couldn't keep it. In one of our last crops, we had about 300 acres of wheat sown, but the wild mustard spoiled half of it. You couldn't strip it. There were no sprays around then. If we'd been able to sell what was left for, say, 3 shillings a bushel, we could have carried on for another year. But the government seized it for its wheat pool. This was during the war, and we were promised a princely sum of 2 and 6 a bushel. But you couldn't get even this until after the wheat was delivered, in some cases 6 months. I later heard it was sold in England for 12 and 6 a bushel. I don't know who got the difference. A lot of splendid gentlemen boasted about their loyalty then, who just feathered their nests at Australia's expense at a time of trouble. The crop seizure was only one of the things that happened. The Shire sued us for rates. We were almost hunted off our land. They could easily have collected from the government, who had all our money locked away. Our other creditors, storekeepers, auctioneers and so on, were easier to deal with. But the mortgagees were busy chasing us, clamouring for their interest. You'll think I'm piling it on, but a few years before we left, we had a bloody mouse plague. You'd scarcely credit what they did. They tore the mattresses. They ran over the bed while you slept. They practically joined hands and danced on the blanket in front of you. They took little bites at your ears and hair. Special care had to be taken of little babies. Some of them were sent down south. Mice chewed everything. Boots, shoes, tablecloths, the lot. We tried to kill them with poison wheat and so on, but if you got one, 100 came to its funeral. The smell made us sick. They made short work of Jock's notebooks. A lot of them were chewed and bitten, many months' work completely ruined. So, with one thing and another, we couldn't stay. We went on the road. I didn't like it very much, but you did meet some people with tongues to wag or tales to tell. I met a man down Bathurst Way in the middle of the year. He had an honest, kindly face and eyes without a fear. A pleasant man to look upon and a pleasant man to hear. And he would talk as men will talk of what their hands have done, of plains and hills and the wilderness where sheep and cattle run, of the bitterness of frost and rain and the blinding of the sun. One thing I saw whene'er I talked of all red history, of England's victories on the land, her strength upon the sea, he listened quietly, but would say no generous word to me. The silence of the man was such that I would more and more speak of the empire. There had never lived on earth before a race so just and merciful. His silence made me sore. One night I spoke of English law and what the English do. Listen, he said, and I will tell a shameful thing to you. 'Twas all when I was born, that night it comes up ever new. My father had the slow speech, and his words came tenderly. When we were splitting in the bush one day, we took a tree with young birds in the nest. All day he could not speak to me. 'Twas in your England that he starved, and he would not dare to kill those who made the laws that said his mouth he must not fill. It was a hungry land, by God, and it is hungry still. There was food before his eyes, and why should he be bound? The rich man owned each inch of earth, and the rich is underground. They would have owned the soul of man had such a thing been found. These laws were harsh, I said, but they have long since disappeared. Wherever strong men live and thrive, is English law revered. That flag is loved, and we are proud to know that it is feared. Then the man, he said, you boast that all the English laws are fair. Such talk is cheap. I count it like the dust upon the air. For the English sent my father here for the shooting of a hare. One day when we were in the deep bush, my father's tongue was free. I was not far into my teens, and his back he showed to me. And even now, when I think of it, my eyes can hardly see. He was a convict, forced to work, when the squatter ruled the land. For some slight fault, his master put a letter in his hand and said, take this to Bathurst jail, and then you'll understand. My father was no chicken heart. He would not flinch at pain. That day he walked to Bathurst, it was in the blinding rain, and they flogged his flesh into his bones. Then he walked back again. The man, he said, I may be dull, you speak of English law. Would you so love it had you seen the shameful thing I saw? For me that back is always bare, those wounds are always raw. Then spoke I still of England. I would not lightly yield. England, I said, is strong, she does the little nations shield. But the man, he said, some things there are that never can be healed. But it was no after. But a little later on, I noticed he hadn't started to write. Why don't you come nearer the light?
It's not the light, Frank. My eyes have been giving me a bit of trouble lately.
He told me that for several months he'd been finding it harder and harder to see things close to him. He was all right at longer distances, but his short sight was definitely going. He couldn't read anything without getting bad headaches. Of course, he couldn't write much either. It was probably the weak shaft that caused it, or the red dust. All I could think of was how he'd get on writing down or looking over those lines of his. Some of his poems took him 3 or 4 years to get right. How could he do all that fixing if he couldn't get it down on paper? He'd been having a devil of a job trying to write by candlelight. This was at the end of the day when I was too bushed to do more than lift a finger, let alone think. His mates tried to help, but some of them couldn't read or write too well either. One old bloke once said when taking down his lines, "Jesus, Jock, what do you want to do it for? You must be off your onion." When he'd been out working for 5 or 6 weeks' time on the road gangs or shearing, all these pieces would get jumbled. Different lines would fight in his mind. He once said his lines were like a lot of little puppies all pushing and battling for the mother's teats. Some of the stronger ones get there, but the weaker ones fall away, forgotten. I'm like a cow with 20 calves, he said. That night he first mentioned this eye trouble, I asked if he'd seen a doctor. Yes, several in fact. The most recent had been in Bendigo. Some quack had given him some Indian curry pills to place on his eyelids. These had caused severe strain. But I suppose that chap was really no worse than most of his kind. There were some real crooks around in those days, and we were very ignorant too. But you often didn't know any better, so you trusted people. This all happened when he was about 32 or 33. His sight started to go for the close work. He was all right for the outdoor jobs, the ones that brought in the money. When I started to get work on the fruit blocks along the Murray, things eased a bit. Mostly it'd be me who'd go ahead and get the job, as I had a bicycle. Jock never had the patience to master one. Mildura was a lively, go-ahead sort of place, and I liked it there. Jock liked it there too, because the colour of the leaves and the fruit helped his eyes. One of the poems he's written that's been most admired by the literary people came from his time up there.
The young girl stood beside me. I saw not what her young eyes could see. A light, she said, not of the sky, lives somewhere in the orange tree. Is it, I said, of east or west? The heartbeat of a luminous boy, who with his faltering flute confessed only the edges of his joy. Was he, I said, born to the blue, in a mad escapade of spring, ere he could make a fond adieu to his love in the blossom? Listen, the young girl said. There calls no voice, no music beats on me. But it is almost sound. It falls this evening on the orange tree. Does he, I said, so fear the spring and a white sap too far can climb? See, in the full gold evening, all happenings of the olden time. Is he so goaded by the green? Does the compulsion of the dew make him unknowable but keen, asking with beauty of the blue? Listen, the young girl said. For all your hapless talk, you fail to see there is a light, a step, a call, this evening on the orange tree. Is it, I said, a wasted love, imperishably old in pain, moving as an affrighted dove under the sunlight or the rain? Is it a fluttering heart that gave too willingly and was reviled? Is it the stammering at a grave, the last word of a little child? Silence! The young girl said. Oh, why? Why will you talk to weary me? Play me no longer now, for I am listening, like the orange tree.
You know what Jock once said when I asked him what it was about? He paused and said with a bit of a twinkle in his eye, when I wrote that poem, God and I knew what it meant. Now only God knows. Adding it all up, I reckon Jock had about 200 jobs in 30 years. Every couple of months he'd finish it up somewhere and go looking for a new one. He was on the open cut at your lawn, the quarry at Yarrabin, building the weir at Glen Maggie, anything that'd pay. If the boss let you sit with him at lunchtime and you got tucker worth opening your jaws for, you were lucky. For a while, Jock carried a swag. The work was often dangerous too when you could get it. Several times he reached his back and cracked his ribs. But I don't think Jock minded this wandering life as much as I did. Navvies, he said we were. Felt more like nomads to me. We had no home and little chance of one. I often wondered to myself, was there something else we should have done to keep that farm going? But the money had to come from somewhere. We had to leave the farm to earn it. And I think that's the trouble. Once you leave it, a place doesn't live to the full. You're not there to give it a helping hand. It dies a bit, I reckon. I drove by there one day. Dad had called it Eureka when we first came, after that time in Ballarat. They say it's Greek where I found it. What we found there, you know. Our place was about 8 miles from Sea Hill, on the way to Swan Hill, where the road takes a bit of a bend. You catch sight of the Salt Lakes a few miles away. That's where we had our farm. The house was still there, run down, of course. So I got out of the buggy, tied up the horse and looked around a bit. Dust everywhere. I almost fell through the steps. The white ants had eaten them. That house could have belonged to anyone. So I poked around for a while, and in the end I came across one of Mother's old teaspoons. I put it in my pocket and kept it by me for many a long day. Have you ever been down to my country where the trees are green and tall? The days are long, but the heavens are so high, and the people there are small. There is no work there, it is always play. The sun is sweet in the morn. 1,000 dark things walk at night in the land where I was born. Have you ever been down to my country where the birds make happy spring? The parrots scream from the honey trees and the jays hop chattering. Strange were the ways of the water birds in the brown swamps night and morn. I knew the road they had in the reeds in the land where I was born. Have you ever been down to my country? Have you ever ridden the horses there? They had silver manes and we made them prance and plunge and gallop and rear. We were knights of the olden time when the old chain mail was worn. The swords would flash and the helmets crash in the land where I was born. Have you ever been down to my country? It was full of smiling queens. They had flaxen hair. They were white and bare. They never reached their teens. Their shoes were small, but their dreams were tall. Wonderful frocks were worn. But the queens all strayed from the place we played in the land where I was born. I know you have been to my country, though I never saw you there. I know you have loved all things I loved, flowery, sweet and fair. The days were long. It was always play, but we are tired and worn. They could not welcome us back again to the land where I was born. When Dad was well over 70, he found a piece of land he could buy without a deposit. I was wary of this, and when I saw it, I knew I was so cheap. The ground was so rough, no one else would touch it. He was all set to make a fresh start of it. He even refused to apply for the old age pension. I can't do a job, he said. I just don't like the idea of it. God knows he'd earned it. He never saw his verses in print either. A long time after he died, about 15 or 16 years later, Jock and I scraped some money together and got them into print at last. Because of his bad eyesight, Jock relied on different ones to take down his lines. When he tried to do it himself, he'd have to go and bathe his eyes.
Let your song be delicate. The skies declare no war. The eyes of lovers wake everywhere.
What's made you come up with this?
I've been reading a bit of Kipling stuff lately. It's altogether too rowdy. It's time for something else. What was the next verse?
Let your voice be delicate. Has love come in? Love, it's his little love crying in the air, I think.
I rather like that, Peter. It's easy to comprehend and suits me. That whole verse wasn't how I had it at first. Not the way it was this morning, and that last line is bad. But we'll shove it in for the present. This isn't going to, what is it?
Well, Jock, I did hear that De Quincey and Coleridge wrote some of their best poetry on opium. If you could just get hold of some of that stuff.
I think we'll have to This is a new one. Let your voice be delicate. The bees are home. All their days' love is something safe in the comb. You have to be careful of the vowel sounds. The vowels are awfully important. There's a lot of trickery in verse, you know. Some of those words jump a bit. I was thinking we might get out about 20 stanzas and then we'll pick out about half of them.
You don't mind throwing away a lot of stuff?
It's very hard to remember how I had it at first. It's quite easy when I first wake up. I can rattle off stanza after stanza. When we're done with this thing, I'll put it away for about 6 weeks or so and then have another go at it. It takes a long time to build a poem, piece by piece. There are a lot of lines that are all wrong.
Even though this way of doing it didn't work too well, it was worse when Jock tried it himself. If he tried even a single line, his eyes would ache for hours afterwards. So if you read some of his verses now, the ones that didn't come out in print, the writing's all over the place. Well, the other person might not have known what he meant. Some of it you just can't grasp. It was strange too, how people sometimes treated Jock. Some of his literary friends would send him letters or magazines. If one of Jock's verses was in it, or perhaps a review, he'd ask me to read it out. I don't know if you want to hear this, Jock.
Go on, Frank. It's best to know what they say about you.
Nielsen is a rather tame little man. He seems colourless to me. What is called a weak character. Doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't swear, and you couldn't imagine him doing any of these. To lay a shade of odds, he's a virgin to this day, up to the 60s. I bet he's never laughed out loud in his life. He's a simple soul. And he wouldn't contradict anyone for the world, which is his Scotch caution, or the peasantry. But he has a kind of simple cunning for all that. For instance, he's inordinately vain about his fame, such as it is, for all his canny reticences.
I may lack, in a certain way, the measure of a man. I think there's a certain lack of maleness in most bards. All the same, I find that rather amusing after the years of toil I've put in.
That's probably the worst one. In a way, there's probably a grain of truth in it. Jock never would stick up for himself. He'd just go along with things. Be above it, perhaps. He often used to laugh at some of old A.G.'s letters, though. A.G. was his editor in Sydney. Dear Nelson, your honeymoon song is good. We can tidy things up a bit. What you need, you old dog, is 3 bowls of sound old wine under your belt. No thin new stuff. After a good dinner of beef and greens. You get too high and thin from all the ears at times. I would like a stanza for the proper joys of matrimony. Lusty, joyful, full-mouthed stanza. Do not be too niggling over the physical side. Go as far as sturdy bosoms or loving breasts anyway. Do not let your bull turn to a cow in the city. Call up your red-blooded fighting ancestors from the ancient souls in your brain and let them put the loving bride to bed. And carry the bridegroom full of meek manhood to a longing arms. You have here the idea of many of the bones of a glorious chant. Stiffen your back, erect your head, leap and exult once more. 59 is no age for a son of Nils the Viking. Forward, let us do or die.
Some people seem to think that the lyric should be as definite as an ironmonger's catalogue and as dogmatic as a Calvinistic sermon.
A lot of his verse isn't to my taste, you know. But many people have told me how good it is, so I suppose there's something in it. Some people have even said he was a great man, but that's not a word I ever heard in our part of the country. His writing got better known, and he was taken up by people I never met. Mrs. Gilmore was always a strong aid to him, and she had a lunch Jocks on at one time when he made the trip to Sydney. Professor Brennan was there, and old A.G. Stevens. Everyone spoke French that day. Except for Jock. He sat and listened. After we lost our farm, we saw less of one another. Our work split us up. Jock was now in his late 50s, and the strain of finding 3 or 4 jobs a year knocked him about a bit. His eyesight was very bad, and heavy pick and shovel work was too much for his shoulder. He had the good luck to get a literary pension one time. That was a godsend. Later he was given a job with the Country Roads Board as a porter come messenger. So he came to Melbourne. I don't know if he liked it here very much. The rush, the smoke, the speed, full of wowsers minding everyone else's business. Bitterly cold too. He called it Stony Town. No curve they follow in Stony Town, but the straight line and the square. He told me he needed the open air for his verse. There's not too much of that around here. He was out of place, but he needed the job, so he stayed. Jock doesn't like sharp noises, you know. I was once surprised to see him abruptly leave the room when a neighbour dropped in. He couldn't stand the sound of a voice. He said it was like the rattle of a typewriter. No, I can't have you thinking things were always grim. Some of his cobbers used to go and see him at his place in Footscray. They'd sit in the front parlour and yarn away for hours. Each week, one of them would buy the supplies for the meeting. 3 packets of cigarettes, 3 boxes of matches and some whiskey. They'd take a long time over it. I think Jock enjoyed the pauses even more than the puffs. One of the neighbour's daughters got a job in town. Jock wrote a poem about that. To a blonde typist, to a young girl and the employer of big business.
Gently with dolls, not long since you were playing, but you must come the old hard laws of aim. Come where the old ass business leads the grave.
You should be out where all good things have beginnings, out where the rainbow sometimes has an innings, always in sunlight, counting up your winnings. Here in the old calamities of clatter.
Here we assist in making flatness flatter.
Here we insist that only dull things matter.
Business I see a serpent, cool, suspicious, slithering and sly, but always most malicious. Foe to the arts and patron of the vicious.
Work should begin with wine and generous joking, and in the place of penalties for smoking, let us have fines for platitudes and croaking.
In a sane world, who would rise at 7? It should be 10, 10:30 or 11. Life could be sung, a parody of heaven.
I went to meet him at his work once. I was passing through Melbourne and I went up to the exhibition buildings where the Country Roads people were there. The bloke at the desk said over his shoulder, "Nielsen, you want it?" Turned away without another word. Jock came over and said straight away, "We'll go outside." There were lots of people sitting on the grass and one called out to him, one of those blokes on Sussa. Jock went over and sat down. He seemed to belong with them, but for once he had better luck than those poor buggers. His job kept him going. No food dockets for him, at least. He noticed that the rich people walked right past the pond, but the poor sat by the water's edge and threw bread to the ducks.
Ragged, unheeded, stooping merely shod, the poor pass to the pond. Not far away the spires go up to God. Shyly they come from the unpainted lanes. Coats have they made of old unhappiness that keeps in every pain. The rich have fear, perchance their God is dim. 'Tis with a hope of stored up happiness they build the spires to him. The rich go out in clattering pomp and dare in the most holy places to insult the deep benevolence there. But 'tis the poor who make the loving words. Slowly they stoop. It is a sacrament. The poor can feed the birds. Old, it is old, this scattering of bread, deep as forgiveness, or the tears that go out somewhere to the dead. It is the feast of love,
for all indignities. It rains, it calls, it chains us to the pure. Seldom they speak of God. He is too dim. But without thought of after happiness, they feed the birds for him. The rich men walk not here on the green sod, for they have builded towers, the timorous, that still go up to God. Still, 'tis the poor who make the loving words in the long need. The need for happiness, the poor can feed the birds.
Jock went to a party at Toorak once. A society lady wanted to meet him, so he got dressed up in his Sunday go meeting clothes. Spent a few hours combing his hair and shaving. He was taken there by car and met the lady and the guests, but he seemed to spend most of the evening in the company of some young children who were allowed to pick at the famous poets. One little girl went and brought some of her verses to show him. Jock studied them very carefully, then said, "I think they're very good, Betsy. Much better than I could do at your age. But I don't think you should take up poetry." "Why not, Mr. Nilsson?" "Because I've been in this trade for 40 years and has never paid more than 6 and 8 a year." When a lady came up to get his autograph, Jock said with a wink in his eye, "Someday these will be valuable. You'll be able to get money for them." The boy overheard all this, got an autograph of his own and said, "Can I sell mine now?" The Australian poet. "You poets now don't get excited. You're not good enough to be knighted. But you all get a pension. You just have to mention you're dead and your country's delighted." That news not really like him though. Jock was never one to complain or make a fuss about things. No, he just went on with his verse. All through the years, wherever he was, he'd make up those lines of his. He went up to Brisbane during the Second War and heard the sound of a flute one day in the street. You don't often hear music in the street, do you? It was played by a Jewish boy, a refugee from Germany. The poem was called "The Victim Astounds Me." No, that mood was not like Jock. He was never one to complain, and as I got older I began to wonder if that wasn't the trouble. In May 1942 I was on a long train trip from Gippsland to Mildura. Jock wasn't too well last time, and the nurse told me he was slowly failing. There was no one else in the carriage and I was left alone with my thoughts. I looked out the window at the countryside I'd wandered over and worked on for 40 years, and somehow I got very low. I always had a knack of hoping, but it never seemed to do me any good. Why didn't we ever have enough money to keep our farm going, to pay off our debts? By the time I was 20, Mother Maggie and Jessie had died from TB and typhoid. God knows we battled hard enough. At times I felt like we were fighting for our lives and there was no way out. The 2 and 6 worth of education didn't go far. All the things I never learnt, the places I never saw. We learned to do without very early. I got my own place up on the Murray at last, in the 40s. But the time for sharing it with someone seemed to have gone by. So here I was in my middle years, without parent or wife. Not a chick nor child, not much chance of them now. So many things had come to naught. And I think to myself, I've lived a decent life. We all had. What did we own? Not much more than we could put on our back or grab from the boss on payday. All we had was our principles or duties. We never complained. That would have done no good. Why should things be so bad that a man needs help but can't bring himself to ask for it? While other people with better luck or no principles grab their fair share and a lot more and cut the rest of us out. Sure, I was crook on the way things were. We had no power and after a while no hope. As the train drew into Melbourne, I only had to look into the backyard of shabby little houses. Poor people lived singing fences you never saw from the road. So I went to that hospital in Richmond, Epworth. I got there late in the evening. We had to leave for the north early the next day. I felt a bit of a shock when I first walked in. Jock's face was turned away from me, and he looked over the edge of the bed at something off in the distance. He seemed a bit smaller than I remembered.
Life goes on in endless song of
not by a long chalk. His song had taken him far away from me, going where I wouldn't follow. I knew this life was all I'd get, and I hadn't done too well out of it. Talked a lot of words to you tonight, haven't I? Words dropped, wrote and spoke, taught to me. But perhaps there's something of my own in all this too. What chance was it that led us to have the same parents, sisters, earth, home and sky? I find myself going over these things just to see what's left. I watch, and I wait, and I listen. This is what I have to do for the time being anyway. Perhaps all I've said to you leads me to this. Something I never said to him. Something I've been saving up for a while. Jock said life was a thing of great beauty. For a long time I believed him, at least while he was there to tell me. What he said was true when he said it. Jock, my brother,